Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Dirshu Mishnah Berurah shir. We are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik. Today's shir is going to be on Tzadik Gimel Amud Aleph. Of course, we're continuing to learn Hilchos Pesach, and we begin today it's actually not Tzadik Gimel Amud Aleph. We're going to be doing Tzadik Gimel Amud Beis. We're beginning the shir on Tzadik Gimel Amud Aleph in the middle of Siman Taf Pei Ches Sif Aleph. So we began the Siman yesterday. I'm just going to begin reading from the beginning of the Siman, and then we'll pick up in the Mishnah Berurah where we left off. So the Mechaber says in Sif Aleph, Shachris Nichnasim L'Beis HaKnesses. When it's time to daven Shachris, Yom Tov morning, we come into Shul. Alavai, we should all be Zayich, we should all be going into Shul soon. Tekarem Azmirais Shal Shabbos. We say the long Psuke de Zimra that we say on Shabbos. Umaspal and Tefillah Shachris, we daven the Shachris Shmona Esrei, the Goimrin HaHalel, and we say the full Halel, Umavarchin Likrais HaHalel, and when we make the bracha on the Halel, we make the bracha Asher Kedishanu B'Mitzvaysav Etzivanu Likrai Es HaHalel. And now let's pick up in the Mishnah Berurah we were holding. Yesterday we did Ois Katan Aleph and Ois Katan Beis. And just to put in context what we're going to learn now, I'm going to remind you what we said in Sif in Ois Katan Beis. In Ois Katan Beis, the Mishnah Berurah spoke about how you have to be very, very careful in a Hallel not to skip a single word, not to skip even a single letter. And that if you do, you have to go back, excuse me, you have to go back to the point where you skipped something and you have to recite the Hallel from there over again. We said that if you complete the full Hallel and you make the bracha, Melech Mahula Batishpacha is at the end of Hallel, and you realize you skipped something in your recitation of Hallel, you actually have to recite the whole Hallel over again with a bracha. That was Ois Katan Beis. Now we go to Ois Katan Gimel. So the Chafetz Chaim says, Likrois es Hallel. The Ramah made the point of saying that the bracha we make is Likroi es Hallel. Says the Chafetz Chaim, what the Mechaber wants to say over here is Shalayoymar Ligmar HaHalel. You should not make the bracha and use the lashon of Ligmar as HaHalel, which literally would mean to complete the Hallel. Why should you not make that bracha? Explains the Chafetz Chaim. Perhaps when you're saying the Hallel, maybe you'll goof and you'll accidentally skip a word or skip a letter. And in that case, you did not say the complete Hallel. The yesh chash bracha levatala. And therefore, the Chafetz Chaim says, should that happen, there would be a concern that you made a bracha levatala. You made a bracha that you're going to be goymer as a Hallel, that you're going to complete the Hallel. And yet, you skipped the word. If you skipped the word, you did not complete the Hallel. So then maybe your bracha is a bracha levatala. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second, and let's take a look at the Sharet Tzion Ois Gimel. Now, I reminded you at the outset of the shir of the halacha that if you skip a word or skip even a letter in Hallel, you're not Yoitza. Now, the Chafetz Chaim is telling me, why does the Ramah say you should not make the bracha of Ligmar es Hallel? Because you might skip a word and then it'll be a bracha levatala. Now, if you skip a word, you weren't Yaitza Hallel at all. So let's take a look at what the Sharet Tzion says over here. Lashon HaTorah b'shem Aram. V'lechayra, says the Chafetz Chaim, Afim Yevarech Likrais. Now, let's say you make the bracha of Likrais Hallel the way we do. Still, im Yedaleg me'Hallel, Gam Ken L'Yatza Kamay b'Megillah. You're still not going to be Yaitza Hallel. So what are you telling me? Don't make the bracha of Ligmar as Hallel lest you skip a word. And then it'll be a bracha levatala. If you skip a word anyway, it's a bracha levatala. You aren't Yaitza Hallel. The paskina la'el b'simen tavchav beis b'sayfai. Demkara v'ta yachzel ha'makim shata. Ve'ef shalaymar, says the Chafetz Chaim, possibly you could say, the Savaram Keder Rishona. It could be that this is being drawn from the Rambam that maybe holds like the first opinion, Shebesimin Tafrei Tzadik Le'inyan Megillah, Sif Yodalid, De'ein Medaktikin B'Tayuseha, that we don't have to be so careful by Megillah. And remember, we said yesterday that the halacha of Hallel flows from the halacha of Kriyas Megillah by Megillah Esther. Could be, says the Rambam holds, like the first opinion by Hilchas Megillah, De'ein Medaktikin B'Tayuseha, And that means maybe the Rambam held that by Kriyas Megillah, even if you make a mistake on a word, gam ken yotza, you are yotza. Umistabra duadin le'inyan halal. And if that's true, then we would paskin that way by halal also. Therefore, if you make a bracha of likra as a halal, you don't have a bracha of atala, because even if you messed up a word, you are yotza. So we have this, we're coming from two sides over here. On the one hand, yesterday we said in nice cut and bays that you have to take great care not to skip a word in Hallel, not to skip a letter in Hallel, and we're worried that if you do, you aren't Yotza, and you have to make the bracha over again. However, we see over here a Ramah, where the Ramah says, Bedafka, make the bracha likrayas a Hallel, not the bracha ligmaras a Hallel. But it would seem that the halacha that we follow is like the Mishnah Berurah said yesterday, that even a mistake in one word in Hallel is problematic. But for us, it's not a concern. It is a concern. We would have to say Hallel over again. But as far as the bracha, our minig is likrais as a Hallel. Nobody says ligmar as a Hallel. Okay. Now let's continue the Mishnah Berurah is cut and gimel. V'amar ligmar yotza. The Chavetz Chaim does tell you if you did make the bracha ligmar as a Hallel, you are yotza. And the truth is, the Ramah says elsewhere that even if you make the bracha ligmar as a Hallel on a day like Rosh Chodesh, where we don't say the full Hallel, where we skip Lailanu and we skip Ahavti, even then, if you would make the bracha ligmar as a Hallel, b'di'evid, you are yotza. You don't have to repeat the bracha. And the reason is because they say that the word ligmar doesn't necessarily mean to complete, meaning in its total complete form. It means to say the Hallel. So even if you make the bracha ligmar on Rosh Chodesh or on the rest of Pesach, other than the first 2 days when you don't say full Hallel, you're still b'di'evid yotza. Continues the Chavetz Chaim, uvamakim shenagu loymar ligmar, in locales where they do indeed have the minyan to say minig to say ligmar as a Hallel, ein levatel minhagam. Now here's another interesting halacha. In Bala Beis HaKnesses Samach LaHallel. Let's say somebody unfortunately came late to shul. I know by me personally, this whole experience of COVID-19 and not being able to go to shul and daven b'tzibur has made me more sensitive to the idea of coming to shul late. You see that the Rabbeinu Shalom could very easily and very quickly take away from you the privilege of being able to go to shul. So now you recognize what a privilege it is to come to shul. If you see it as a privilege, you don't come late, you come on time. But nevertheless, we're speaking here about somebody who came late, Yom Tov morning. Listen, sometimes it happens ba'inus also. Sometimes there's an inus, somebody comes late to shul. So in Bala Beis HaKnesses Samach LaHallel, let's say you came late and the tzibur is already up to Hallel. Yikra Tchila Hallel im HaTzibur. You should not start from the beginning of davening. Rather, you should say Hallel together with the tzibur. Now, the reason we want you bedafka to say Hallel with the tzibur is because, remember, as part of Hallel, we have Haidul Hashem ki tov ki lo'olam chasdai, Yarmanu Yisrael ki lo'olam chasdai. And as we've said before, what does this really mean? When the Shliach Tzibur says Haidul Hashem ki tov ki lo'olam chasdai, that's a commandment to the tzibur. Haidul Hashem, let us, in plural, let us give thanks to Hashem. And the Olam answers, Haidul Hashem ki tov ki lo'olam chasdai. So this is something which is uniquely constructed to be said b'tzibur. So we want you, if at all possible, to say Hallel with the tzibur. Now, what's going to be the concern? You're going to be worried that you're going to end up saying Hallel, you're going to daven out of order? You're going to say Hallel before Psukkah de Zimra? There's no such concern. It doesn't say anywhere in halacha that Hallel b'dafka has to be at that point in davening. That's the minig. That's the way we do it. But if you have a need, you could say Hallel earlier. So if you came to shul and they're up to Hallel, say Hallel. However, there is a caveat. Like the Mishnah Berurah says here, if somebody came late to shul, he has to be on the lookout for the zmanim. When zman kriyashma, he has to make sure that he doesn't miss zman kriyashma. He has to make sure he's not going to miss zman tefillah. If there's a chash that he's going to miss the zmanim, then he has to say kriyashma and he has to daven shman esrei before he's going to say Hallel, because the zmanim are more important. Okay. Now we go to the bottom line in the Shulchan Aruch on Tzadik Gimel Amud Aleph, and we continue the Shulchan Aruch. Says the Mechaber. Vein mafsikin bay. We don't make a hafsaka. We don't interrupt Hallel. Ella kederech sha'amru. Ella kederech sha'amru b'kriyashma. The halachas of being mafsik, the halachas of interrupting in your recitation of the Hallel in order to say something else, those halachas follow the same rules as kriyashma, which are, the Shulchan Aruch says, be'emtza perek. If you're in middle of a paragraph, what we call a perek, if you're in middle of a chapter, shoyel b'shloim aviv ay rabbi, you're allowed to be shoyel, you're allowed to go greet your father or your rebbe, umeishiv shalom, and you could respond if somebody gives you shalom, umeishiv shalom la'adam nichbad shenasan lo shalom. If the Rav of the shul comes over and says shalom aleichem, so even be'emtza perek, even if you're, let's say, in middle of the first paragraph of Hallel, Hallelu ka'alu avdei Hashem, you're in the middle of the paragraph, the Rav of the shul comes over, says shalom aleichem, you could say aleichem shalom, according to the Shulchan Aruch over here, because he's an Adam Nichbad, he's a person that you're mechuyev to give kavod to, and you didn't go to him, he came to you. He greeted you, you're allowed to be meshiv, you're allowed to respond. As far as being shoyel b'shalom, if you want to go greet someone, that has to be somebody that you have a chiyuv. So your father or your rebbe, if they come in the middle of Hallel, you could go over and you could say shalom aleichem. Now that's the ruling here of the Shulchan Aruch. However, this very famous, brought down by the Sefer HaChinuch, the Sefer HaChinuch already says that nowadays we don't have this minig. Nowadays we're not so, everybody understands that in middle of davening, in the middle of Hallel, you're not going to go greet somebody. In the middle of Kriya Shema, you're not going to greet somebody. Everybody understands that if they come over to you and they see you're in the middle of Kriya Shema, they know you're not going to respond. So nowadays we don't greet anyone, we don't respond to anyone in the middle of Kriya Shema or in the middle of Hallel. Says the Mishnah Berurah back on Tzadik Gimel Amud Aleph, the bottom line, actually the last word, Ois Katan Daled, Kederech, and now we turn the page, Kederech Sha'amru B'Kriyah Shema. The halachas that govern being mafsik in Hallel are the same as those that govern being mafsik in Kriyah Shema. Uprate dinam elu ayin le'el Siman Samach Vav Siv Aleph. The Mishnah Berurah sends you back to Hilchas Kriyah Shema to Siman Samach Vav Sif Aleph, and there's a nice Dirshu footnote here. Footnote number 12. I'm not going to go through the whole footnote. It's a lengthy footnote discussing a lot of details, but I'm going to do the first paragraph and the third paragraph. So in the first paragraph of this footnote, he writes, Shakasav al-Shulchan Aruch Sham, the Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Samach Vav and Siv Gimel, Sha'afim oimid be'emtza perek, even if you're in the middle of one of the prakim of Kriyah Shema, let's say you're in the middle of Ahavta, Yachar lahafsik kedei la'anois lekadish lekedusha lebarachu ulamaidim. You're allowed to interrupt your recitation of Kriyah Shema even in middle of one of the parshas of Kriyah Shema in order to respond to Kaddish, to Kedusha, to Baruchu, and to say Moedim D'Rabbanan. But there's a caveat, not as simple as it seems. Over Mishnah Berurah Sham, and the Mishnah Berurah over there, a nice cut in Yud Kasav, the Chavetz Chaim writes, Sha'afilu be'emta pasuk yachal anois. Really, you're allowed to respond in these ways, even in the middle of a pasuk, not only in the middle of one of the parshas of Kriyah Shema, but even if you're holding in the middle of one of the psukim, in the middle of one of the parshas, you could interrupt. Achein, imadavar efshari, if it's possible, yesayim tchila es inyan, it's preferable that you should finish the pasuk. Achein, yakal esayma, if you're not able to, yana b'makin sha'imid, so then you could interrupt even a pasuk and respond. And then don't just continue the pasuk that you interrupted. Go back to the beginning of that pasuk and continue Kriyah Shema. Now, what precisely we just said over here, that even in the middle of one of the parshas of Kriyah Shema, and then it would follow even in the middle of one of the prakim of Hallel, you're allowed to answer to Kaddish, to Kedusha, you could say Baruchu and Moedim. What precisely does that mean? The Kasav b'Mishnah Berurah Sham, Shali Kedusha Yaner Rakis Apsukim Kadosh Ubaruch Kavod. Doesn't mean that if they get up to Kedusha when you're in the middle of Kriyah Shema, you could say the full Kedusha. No, you do not recite the full Kedusha. You just respond Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Hashem Tzavakos B'Loicha La'aretz Kavod, or Baruch Kavod Hashem Mimakaimai. but you don't say Nagdishach or Nekadesh, whether it's Nusach Sfard or Nusach Ashkenaz. You don't say Lu'umasam Mishabachim Va'ibrim or Lu'umasam Baruch Yemeru. You just say Kadosh, 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 and Baruch Kvoid. Only those two psukim. Ula Kaddish, and when it comes to responding to Kaddish, if you're holding in middle of Kriya Shema, Yane Rak Amen Yeheshme Rabba Ad Olmaya. So you could say Yeheshme Rabba Mavarach La'olam Olmaya. V'chein Yana Amen Sha'acharei Da'amiran Ba'olma. You could also respond Amen after the Amiran Ba'olma V'imru Amen. But we don't respond to any other of the Amens of Kaddish, only Amen Yeshbe Rabba, and this one Amen of the Amiran Ba'olma V'imru Amen. Now skip the next two lines of the footnote. Let's go to the third line of the footnote here. Ukishehu Aimed Bein HaPrakim. Let's say you're not in middle of a parsha of Kriya Shema, you're not in middle of the Ahavta, or you're not in middle of one of the prakim of Hallel, you're between the prakim of Hallel. So let's say between Laishivim Nedivim, Laishivim Nedivim, Nedivim Amayim, Laishivi Akaras Habayis, Aim Habanim Semecha Hallelujah. After the word Hallelujah, before B'tseis, you're between two of the prakim of Hallel. So let's say you're not in the middle of a parsha of Kriya Shema or in the middle of a parak of Hallel, you're between the parshas, so between the prakim. What's the halacha then? Kasav le'el, Shemut, we learned earlier, Shemut lo'ilanis amen al kol bracha. Over there it says that you're allowed to answer amen to any bracha. Doesn't matter which bracha, any bracha, you're allowed to answer amen. Amnam le'el, however, earlier on in Siman Samach Vav, Hevi bazem achloikis, the Chavetz Chaim brings down a machloikis, Shaladas HaChayodam, he brings down the opinion of the Chayodam that says, Mutalamis amen rak aloisa bracha shesiem, that he's only allowed to say to the bracha that he personally had just finished. However, the Pri Begadim Rabbi Kiva Eger say you can answer amen to any bracha. Okay, now we go weiter. Okay, so on Tzadik Gimel Amud Beis Mishnah Berurah is Katan Hey Be'emtza Perik. If you're holding it in middle of one of the prakim, so then the Mechaber said you can greet somebody who you're mechuyev to greet. You could respond to somebody who you're mechuyev to give kavod to. Now the Chavetz Chaim just defines what are we speaking about when we say that you're be'emtza perik. Says the Chavetz Chaim is Katan Hey Ve'elu hein haprakim. What are the individual prakim, the individual chapters of Hallel? Hallelujah, Hallelu Avdei Hashem, that's the first one. B'tzeis Yitzrael Mitzrayim is the second one. Lailanu is the second one, is the third one. But Lailanu does not end before Hashem Zecharanu Yevarech. It ends at the end of that chapter. Me'atav Ad Olam Hallelujah is the end of Lailanu. Ahavti, which ends at the end of Ma'oshiv. Hallelu Hashem Kol Goyim, that's the beginning of the next one. Min HaMeitzar, and on. The Radak says that Min HaMeitzar is not the beginning of that chapter. It begins with Haidul Hashem Kitayv. Ais Katan Vav. Okay, we have to continue. We have to do the Ramah. So now we go to the second line in the Shulchan Aruch on Tzadik Gimel Amud Beis, and let's continue with the words of the Ramah. Hagah. V'dafka b'shnei yamim harishaynim shegoimrim b'hem hahalel dina haki le'inyan hafsaka. These halachas that we just learned about what you're allowed to interrupt the Hallel for, that it pertains to the first 2 days of Pesach when we say the full Hallel. Aval b'yamim she'ein goyrin, on the rest of Yom Tov where we don't say the full Hallel, ayin la'el siman tav chav beis siv daled. We should look. We're going to learn. We learned that previously in siman tav chav beis. Why is there a difference between the first 2 days of Hallel and the rest of Pesach and the rest of Pesach? The answer is that on Shvi Shal Pesach we can't say Hallel. The reason we don't say Hallel on Shvi Shal Pesach is because that's the day of Kriyas Yamsuf. And we know that by Kriyas Yamsuf all the Mitzrim drowned. And we know it says, Bikshu Malachai Asharei Slema Shira Alayam. The Malachim wanted to sing Shira to the Rabbeinu Shalom, sing the Rabbeinu Shalom's praises for Kriyas Yamsuf. And the Rabbeinu Shalom said, Maisa Yadai Tovin Bayam, I have people that are drowning in the Yam Va'atem Shira, and you're saying Shira. So the Malachim were prevented from saying Shira. So there is this concept of Bin Fa'il Vecha Al Tismach. There is this concept that we don't sing Shira. at such a time. Of course, we sang the Shira of Oz Yashir. We, Am Yisrael, had to sing the Shira of Oz Yashir because we were just saved. We were just saved from clear death. So we absolutely owed to sing Shira to the Rabbeinu Shalom. But to say Hallel on Shvi Shal Pesach, we don't do. And since we're not going to say Hallel on Shvi Shal Pesach, it would be inappropriate for us to say Hallel on Chol Hamoed. Because how would that look? It looks like Chol Hamoed is bigger than Yom Tov. On Chol Hamoed, we say the complete Hallel, and on Shvi Shal Pesach and Achron Shal Pesach, we don't finish the Hallel. So it looks like Chol Hamoed is better than Yom Tov. So since we're not going to say Hallel on Shvi Shal Pesach, then we're also not going to say it on Achron Shal Pesach, because Achron has the same din as Shvi, and now we can't say it on Chol Hamoed, because that would be inappropriate. So we only say the full Hallel on the first 2 days of Yom Tov. Continues the Shulchan Aruch. V'im pasak be'emtza. Let's say something happened and you had to interrupt your recitation of Hallel. V'shah, and then you delayed in the middle of Hallel. Afilu k'dei ligmar es kulai. Even if you had a delay that was so long that during that time period you theoretically could have recited the entire Hallel. That's usually how we measure that a delay is significant. If you made a delay in your recitation of the Hallel that was so long that during that time you could have finished the entire Hallel, that's a very significant delay. And very often we would say that delay is a real bona fide hefsek, and now you have to say Hallel over again. However, over here the Mechaber says, in Pasuk Be'emtza, V'shah filu k'dei ligmar es kulai, einay tzarech lachzar elo l'makom shepasak. You don't have to repeat the entire Hallel. You could just go back to the point in Hallel at which you had a hefsek, and you could just say weiter from there. Says the Mishnah Berurah, I've cut vav be'emtza. If you made a hefsek in the middle of Hallel, hainu afilu be'emtza perek. Over here, it doesn't matter when you made this delay, whether it was in middle of a chapter or between chapters. It doesn't matter. Wherever you had an interruption and you had a delay, that could be a problem. I've cut zayin v'shad, you delayed. Midasasam, since the Mechaber did not write a specific reason why you delayed, he just wrote that you made a hefsek and you made a delay. Mashma, the implication is that it doesn't matter what caused this delay. Afilu shar ba'inus, even if you were forced by an inus to delay, still in all, you do not have to repeat the Hallel. Why is this significant? Well, you might have thought that if something forced you to make a delay, maybe let's say you had to delay because the area where you were davening, there was a davar metunif, something dirty was over there, something smelly was over there, so mameli you weren't allowed to daven. Maybe that's a significant hefsek. Maybe if you're now standing in a place where you're not allowed to say Hallel, so that's a real interruption in your Hallel. Maybe now you might think now you have to repeat Hallel over again. Says the Chavetz Chaim, no. Since the Mechaber wrote it in this way without specifying the reason for your delay, and he just said, don't worry, if you delay, you only have to go back to where you were mafsik. You don't have to repeat the whole thing. So it doesn't matter why you delayed. Afilu shabaynis. Now we go back to the Shulchan Aruch. Let's go to Sif Beis. The Mechaber says, "B'Hallel afilu asara karin ke'echad." When it comes to Hallel, even 10 people could read a Hallel at the same time. What is going on here? What halacha are we talking about? Let's see the Mishnah Berurah in our Ches. Afilu asara karin ke'echad. Even 10 people could read the Hallel together at the same time. Ritzaynai loymar, what the Shulchan Aruch wants to say over here is, Afilu heicha shemaytzian yedei chayva ba'amirasan la'acherim. Let's say somebody doesn't know how to say Hallel. So even in a place where the Shliach Tzibur is being mitzi the people in saying Hallel, so the Shliach Tzibur made the bracha of Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvayis v'tzivanu likrayas Hallel, and those that are listening said Amen, and now they listen to the Chazan recite the Hallel, and the Chazan is mitzi them with his recitation of Hallel. Even in such a case, 10 people could say the Hallel out loud at once. We don't worry that the people that are being Yaitza, if 10 people are saying Hallel at once, they're not going to be able to listen clearly to the Shliach Tzibur who's being Mitzi them. If you want to be Yaitza with the Shliach Tzibur's Hallel, you have to be able to hear him. Normally we say, Trei Kailu Lo Mishtami, two voices saying something at the same time are not heard clearly. You can't discern who's saying what. You can't focus on one. You're hearing two, and therefore they can't be mitzi you. By Hallel, says the Mechaber, that's not the halacha. By Hallel, even if the Shliach Tzibur is being mitzi people, 10 people could read the Hallel at the same time, and we don't worry. What's the reason for this? Explains the Chavetz Chaim. Even in a case where there's a Shliach Tzibur that's being mitzi others with his recitation of the Hallel, still other people could say the Hallel out loud together with the Shliach Tzibur, and it's not problematic. V'lo yamrinan, and we do not say trei kol aloi mishtami, that two voices saying the same thing together at the same time cannot be heard. Kedashkechan Siman Kuf Mem Aleph Sif Beis le'inyan Kriyas HaTorah. That's the halacha that we say earlier by Hilchas Kriyas HaTorah, by laning. By laning, we know, what do we do by laning? The Balkara lanes out loud. The Oila, the one who gets the Aliyah, who's actually the one that's making the bracha on the laning, he makes the brachas out loud, but he reads from the Sefer Torah very quietly. Why? Why don't we have him read from the Sefer Torah out loud together with the Balkara? The answer is because Trei Kalu Lo Mishtami. We want the people who are being yoitza with the laning of the Balkara, we want them to be able to hear very clearly and focus on the reading of the Balkara. But if the Balkara and the Oila are going to read together, then they can't focus. They don't know what he said. They don't have a clear hearing of the Kriyas HaTorah. That's what we say by Kriyas HaTorah. But here by Hallel, that's a non-issue. Why is that? Explains the Chavetz Chaim. The Hallel chavivi lahu, because Hallel is beloved. And since Hallel is beloved, when somebody is listening to the Chazan say the Hallel, to be mitzi him, he concentrates and he listens very well, and he's going to make sure that he hears every word clearly. Why is Hallel chavivi? Why is Hallel so beloved? Mishum zichron hanes. Because what are we saying in Hallel? In Hallel, we're singing shirais v'sishpachos to the Rabbeinu Shalom for the nisim that he did for us. So that's very beloved to us. We're thanking the Rabbeinu Shalom for nisim. I always love the Vart. I say it every year by the Seder. It says, Kalamar b'losaper b'yitzias Mitzrayim arezeh mishubach. Anybody who spends a lot of time discussing the nisim of Yitzias Mitzrayim arezeh mishubach, and we normally translate it, he is very praiseworthy. It's a very praiseworthy thing to spend a lot of time being Isaac and Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim. I always remember, I have one Agadah that says a beautiful Dvar Torah. He says, anybody who spends a long time speaking about Yitzias Mitzrayim, harezeh mishubach, he is praised. Because what's he doing? He's speaking about himself. He's saying, look at the nisim that the Rabbeinu Shalom did for me. Why did the Rabbeinu Shalom do such nisim for you? Must be you're praiseworthy. So that's kalamar b'losaper harezeh mishubach. Over here, Hallel is beloved to us because we're singing shirais v'sishpachos to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for nisim that he did for us. So Hallel is very beloved, and therefore we're going to concentrate. V'yahavi datayu v'shami. Since Hallel is beloved, people will concentrate and they will hear. My high time of the Chavetz Chaim says, for the same reason, Gam kein haminig shemekadshim shnayim ayoser yachad b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov. For the same reason, we have another halacha. Let's say you have a bunch of families sitting around a table, and family A, the husband, the father, wants to make kiddush for his mishpacha, and then 2 feet over on the table, there's another mishpacha, and the husband over there also wants to make kiddush to be mitzi his family. You don't have to take turns. You can make kiddush together at the same time. I trey kailu loy mishtami. Why aren't we worried that they're not going to hear clearly to be yaitza with the bracha? Says Chavetz Chaim says no, it's the same halacha because it's beloved. Kiddush is beloved, like the Chavetz Chaim says. Let's say you have a communal sukkah. Say you have a bunch of families all together in the same sukkah. And everybody is making kiddush to be mighty their own family. They could all say it at the same time. Mishum da kiddush chaviv lehem. Because again, kiddush is beloved. Why is kiddush beloved? Well, what do we say in kiddush? Asher bachar banu mikala v'kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav. So we're thanking the Rabbeinu Shalom that he chose us from every nation. So that's very beloved to us to say that we're a chosen people. So again, Kiddush is beloved. The Yahavi Datayu, people will concentrate. Vishami, and they can hear. Nevertheless, Chavetz Chaim says, Yosef Toiv, it would be better that they should not make Kiddush at the same time. When you need to be mitzi other people. The Chavetz Chaim concludes that it definitely would be preferable in a communal setting that people should take turns making Kiddush so that the people that they're being mitzi can hear them very clearly. Okay. Now we go to Siv Gimel. Says the Mechaber, Moitziin Shnei Svarim. After Hallel, we take out 2 Sifrei Torah. V'Kairin Berishain Chamisha Gavri. From the first Sefer Torah, we lane the Yom Tov laning. We lane 5 aliyas. V'Maisifin b'Yom Tov, and whether or not we should make Haisafais, add on aliyas on Yom Tov, Ayin Le'el Reish Siman Reish Pei Beis. He sends us back to Reish Pei Beis, Sif Beis, and we don't make Haisafas unless there's a powerful reason to make Haisafas. Where do these 5 aliyas come from? Where in the Torah? Parshas Bai. We learn from Parshas Bai. Min Mishchu, from the pasuk of Mishchu u'kechu lachem, where the Torah Akdosh is mitzava Klal Yisrael to take a seh, to take a sheep or a lamb for the Karban Pesach. Ad me'eretz Mitzrayim al tzivaisam, until the end of the pasuk where we say that the Rabbanu Shalom took out the Yidden from Mitzrayim, me'eretz Mitzrayim al tzivaisam. So that's what we do at the first Sefer Torah. On Maftir Kairei B'Sheni, and then for the Maftir we learn from the second Sefer Torah, Parshas Pinchas, from Parshas Pinchas, U'B'Chodesh Harishain, we learn the Parsha of the Karban Musaf of Pesach. Maftir B'Yehoshua Ba'esahi, and then we learn the Haftarah from Sefer Yehoshua Ba'esahi, where the Navi speaks about the bringing of the Karban Pesach in the Midbar during the days of Yehoshua. U'Mispalel and Tfilas Musaf, and then we go on to Daven Musaf. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut and test. Umaftir kairei v'ayil le'el b'simen kaf lamed zayim, and Mishnah Berurah says cut and yud aleph. Ice cut and yud ba'es ahi v'yesh maschilin. There are those that begin the haftarah with the pasuk v'yayme Yehoshua ela'am hiskadashu v'chein nahagin achshav, and that indeed is our minik. Okay, we're going to break over here at Ice cut and yud aleph. I hope to record yet another share today to make up for yesterday's share that we missed. Be well.